Ooh, well, Willie here. I wish my YouTube channel was growing like I was. Holy crap. I gained like 30 pounds in a year. It's totally out of control. But anyways, I'm here. 6 days off caffeine. I got a great question. This comes from my friend Christine at the University of Light. Check her channel out. Pretty awesome. She's going to take off. She puts a lot of time and work into her channel. You can totally tell. I planned this out, but I'm just going to wing it. This one really requires diagrams, this talk. But you know what? We're just going for it. If you haven't figured it out by now, I don't know. There's really not a lot of hope for you. I got my festive lights here. It's Christmas time. This is mostly for my son. Anyways, okay, I really wanted this question that Christine asked me. I had to take a picture of it and I had to read it. Let's state it. Okay, so here's the question. I recently heard a series by Alice Jones talking about the clairs. Okay, so clairaudience, clairsentience, I don't even know, I can't say it, etc. Do you associate the extrasensory perceptions, ESP, like this to the essence of our energy? And if so, do you see any reason other than lack of trust in them that a person would not be able to utilize them as easily as one does the five senses? That's a loaded question. I got a psychic friend, and oddly enough, I ran into her tonight. I have a psychic friend. I'm telling you, man, she is totally psychic. Like one time, I just run into her. I'm thinking about her, and I just run into her. Like, I can't figure it the heck out. And I feel like I read that book, The Celestine Prophecy. I got a message to tell her. She's got something to tell me. But, I just don't know. But I sent some feelers out about getting her on because I thought that would be really cool. On this channel, I typically try to just talk about my own experience. And while I have had experiences of intuiting things before they happened or as they were happening, like thinking about my friend and then literally running into her in the parking lot 2 minutes later. I mean, stuff like that happens, sure. But I really wanted somebody else who had a little bit more experience with that. Because I've talked to her for 3 hours and she's telling me crazy stuff. But, she wasn't really feeling it. She wasn't really feeling into it. So we're just going to stay true to my fashion here, and we're going to take it solo. But you know what? You can really answer, as this is a spiritual growth channel, you can really answer any questions if you understand the principles. Okay, so this question is about ESP, and ESP relating to, like, us as energy beings, and us using those faculties, okay? And so the question is, what is the significance of ESP? This is how I'm perceiving this question in my mind, right? And so in order to proceed with this question, we need to understand a couple different principles. These are universal principles that govern everything. So we have to kind of throw these out because I'm just wading in the dark here. My ESP is turned off. I love the drinks in metal cans. And I love food with plastic in it. And so, I don't know. But I tell you what, we can discern based on our understanding of these principles. Now, there's 3 universal principles that kind of deal with this question. Now, the first universal principle that we have to deal with, let's throw it out there, get it out of the way, has to do with self-identification, okay? So, and the principle is this. I think it's a Hermetic principle, as above, so below. Applied properly, it sounds like this, it looks like this, in my opinion, to me. You can be who you truly are by knowing what you are not, okay? The more you know what you are not, the more you can be who you truly are. Okay, so that has to do with self-identification. So that is a principle that we're going to use to determine the significance of ESP. Okay, the second principle is the law of arising. In Buddhism, I think they call it dependent arising. but I'm not really sure if we're talking about that. But what we're talking about is impermanence, the law of impermanence. Things arise and they pass away. Things arise and they pass away. You have a thought that comes into your head. It stays there for some time. Maybe some part of you, the I, ruminates on that thought for some time. But sooner or later, it either turns into an action or it gets passed away, it gets let go. Somebody comes up to you and they hit you in the arm. It creates a sensation that arises on your body because of the contact. It stays there for some time and then it passes away. You have arisen in this life. You will stay here for some time until you pass away. Maybe you created some progeny. They will stay here for some time until they pass away. Maybe you created some objects. They will stay here for some time and then they will pass away. See, these are the kind of the laws that govern everything. And if we understand these principles, then we can determine the answer to this question. So the third law is that things arise. First, they start out on a gross level, and then they kind of they transmute or whatever into a subtler level. And we can really see this. This is in the chakras. You can really see this in the chakra models. The chakra model, if nothing else, or at the root of the chakra model, is really capturing this law, this principle, that things arise seemingly solid, and then they kind of turn into, they dissolve, okay? It's kind of an expression of the law of impermanence. Like things start out gross, and then they kind of end up subtle, okay? So we're going to explain this, and then we'll see it more deeply in my example here. Okay, so in the chakra model, security, sensation, power, love, faith, conscious awareness, insight or cosmic consciousness. All right, so physical energy, sexual energy, okay, destructive energy, creative energy, mental energy, concentrated energy, and then receiving energy, okay? So we see that the body is a seemingly solid, right? The security, right? You need to go out and get food to maintain the solidness of your structure, right? And then it kind of, once it gets up into, kind of like cornucopia, faith, chakra, or it gets up into the mental chakra, we're dealing with kind of intangible. It's like earth to air to heaven, right? So that's kind of just the way it goes. And then you get into concentration, you get into insight. We're not even talking about you anymore. The solidity of you as an energy being in the question has totally disappeared, right? Okay, so now we're going to add another model to help us, and it's basically an extension of the third principle, that things usually start out gross and then they become more and more subtle. And so we're going to use another model to kind of help us understand this, right? Because we're trying to make sense of this based on what we know, and we know these principles. So you're born, you have arisen into being, you have a body, you have a will, and you can do things. And when you do things, you control your environment, and it gives you a sense of power if the outcome is good. Or we'll just say that, okay? If the outcome is good, it gives you a sense of power, right? So what we're really going to do is we're really going to talk about something that I'm calling right now the power hierarchy, okay? Or the power and control pyramid, okay? And it follows the same principle. It moves from gross to subtle, right? And this functions off another principle, the karmic principle, okay? And we'll explain this. So the grossest thing that a person can control, right? Like the one that has the most amount of karma. The grossest as meaning the most vulgar, the most like the loudest one. At the bottom of the pyramid is the control of another human being, right? Because that's something I can control. I can try to control. We have all types of structures in this world where people have power over other people. That's at the bottom, okay, of the pyramid, meaning that it's the most gross. It's the one that has the most karmic load attached to it. The level up from that is people can control the world. Okay? And then the level up from that is we're getting subtler and subtler and subtler. People can control things. Okay? And then a level up from that, people can control themselves. Okay? And then at the top of the pyramid, hierarchy of control and power, is people relinquish control. I've totally surrendered. I don't try to control anything on any level. Okay? Now, so at the top is no control, control self, control things, control the world, control people. Okay? So this is called the control power pyramid, right? Okay, so we're going to explain this. You're a caveman. You're hanging out with your caveman buddies. You hit some sticks on some rocks. You make a spear. You control a thing. And you stab an animal. You control your world a little bit. And you get some food, right? Your karmic load's pretty low, okay? I mean, you killed a deer. You removed something that was on the earth in its form. Like, so you did create a little bit of change there, which is karma, but like it's pretty low. You have to kind of do that, right? That's pretty low. You're controlling things, and you kind of control the world a little bit. Okay. You got a really smart caveman buddy, right? So you guys also eat fruit, which is, I don't know, controlling, manipulating things. I don't know, just living pretty low on the karmic level. He figures out that you take the seeds out of the fruit you eaten and you can plant them. You give them water and you plant them. And then, so, wow, all of a sudden, he's controlling the seeds and the fruit, the thing, and then he's altering the world because he's creating farming. And so the karmic load here, the karmic effect of the farming is that the little tribe can sustain a greater population. So they sustain a greater population, and so what happens is they stop being nomadic, following the animals that they eat, and they become farmers. And they create a bigger population, and then eventually they don't have like work for some of these people to do, so they either tell the ones they don't like, they're like, hey, George over there, or Sam or whatever, we don't like you, we're going to make you do the stupid jobs, the dumb jobs, the jobs we don't want to do in this farming situation or whatever. And that's what you're going to do because I'm the chief and that's what you do. So we have controlling things with the seeds, controlling the world. Like I just created a little ecosystem here. And then, so I controlled the world and then I controlled people. Okay, that's kind of the flow, right? Okay, another scenario, say the tribe, they started farming, but then they also, kept hunting when it was possible to, which makes sense. And then, they had an abundance of food, and then they sent out warriors to go scout around, and maybe they found other clans that hadn't figured out some of this stuff yet, and then they were like, well, we're going to take you into our clan, and we're going to make you our slaves. And you're going to harvest our food for us. And we've got it all, we're good. We got it all figured out. So it's the same chain. And you can look at the world right now and you can see this chain. There's like, I don't know, billionaires, the people in control. They got all the money. They were really good at controlling things, or their parents were, or their, whatever. And they accrued all this power in the world. Like they can make these decisions that alter the world. And they control all of us. Right? I mean, this is it, you guys. Okay, this is it. So if we look at controlling the self, now this is where the self-identification principle comes into play here. See, if I don't know what I'm not, like if some part of me identifies with something, some object, right? I have not seen the folly in that object. I have not seen the falseness in that object, then I'm going to be that form, and I'm not truly going to be what I am, which is just consciousness, like awareness, just being, right? like no karma. Because the whole idea is to step out of karma. It's to step off the wheel of birth and death and rebirth, which is the karmic wheel, right? So the whole idea is to try to go in the spiritual path, is to go to the place of no control, relinquishing all my control. That's the whole point, right? So if we look at the controlling the self, okay, there's like a way. There's a false aspect in this, and then there's a proper aspect in this, right? So we'll go back to the caveman and we'll look at the proper aspect first. Say the caveman one day he got tired of freaking working for food. He didn't want to farm. He didn't want to hunt. He didn't want to do anything. He decided he was going to become a freaking breatharian and live off prana. He wasn't going to eat anymore. Okay, so he controls himself to learn how to do this, and then he doesn't have to eat anymore. So he's minimized his karmic load very low because he's living off air, man, and freaking prana, right? He's staring at the sun and he's doing his breathing and his yoga or whatever, and he's freaking a master, right? But still, in the proper way, this is predicated on the self, the existence of a self. I'm controlling myself to minimize my karmic load, right? So he has not reached the pinnacle or the peak or the top of the control and power pyramid, right? Now the false way the self thinks it controls itself is through self-identification, right? It's actually, what it actually is, it's the ego's attempt at trying to, when it can't control the world, when it cannot control a situation that it doesn't like, it self-identifies in a different way so it can relate with the world in a different way to feel better, right? It's a false way of controlling the self. It's an automatic way of controlling the self, like it's a survival mechanism. It's automatic. Like when you're a child, or when you're growing up and you were raised in an environment where there was not a lot of love or care, the seed of self, because it goes like this. You have to develop a sense of self, a strong enough sense of self, so you can know what you are not and then transform to be what you really are. But if that process gets halted or stopped by abuse and trauma, then what happens is the development of the self stops, and the development of a pseudo-protective defense mechanism self happens. And that happens to protect the damaged seed, the damaged little sense of self that never got its nutrients, its start, its soil, whatever. So the defense mechanism is a byproduct of this egoic process. It's a survival mechanism. So that's kind of the false way, the automatic way that the self kind of controls itself to adapt to a situation in the world, you see? And that's where self-identification comes up in this whole process, because we're talking about faculties that are inherent within us, right? Because they talk about the pineal gland. Everybody's got a pineal gland, and it's got these crystals, and we're all connected with these crystals, right? Or hacking into Mother Earth and tuning into that intelligence, right? That wavelength. Or clearing out the junk thoughts so you can just be in a state of presence and openness to kind of, attune to what is happening on a different level. I mean, this could all be happening, right? This could all be happening. But see, we have to go back to the principle of arising, right? Because if we were trying to get to the root of this question, like we have to think, what is the significance of this? Okay? Because things arise and then they pass away. Things arise and then they pass away. Maybe I had a thought of my friend and then I ran into her. But does that mean that I'm a psychic? See, that's a self-identification right there. That's the first part. Boom. That's the first part that I'm going down that chain. Oh, I'm a psychic. I'm a psychic. Clearly, I've got ESP capabilities, right? So, okay. Maybe I want to develop those. Maybe I decide I want to develop those, right? See, the ego revolts in this automatic process. As we grow older in life, this process becomes a revolt against this law of arising and passing away, the law of impermanence. Because the ego tries to maintain a sense of solidity in a world that is totally not solid. It's totally subtle, it's impermanent, right? The ego is the gross level. So he tries to do this all the time. He doesn't want to accept the world as it is, and he's trying to control it. He's trying to control the world. Yeah, see, he's not controlling himself, he's trying to control the world. And so I say, okay, yeah, I'm going to develop these faculties. I'm going to develop these faculties. Okay, so in a sense, you are controlling yourself. You're controlling the self because you're developing faculties inherent within your form. Because, I mean, it's real. I think it's real. I mean, I've watched a lot of videos, and you can get into Christian. I mean, this is a spiritual channel, so we're looking at it from a spiritual perspective, a spiritual growth perspective, right? But, you know, Christians, they've got their own explanations for this. Other people got their own explanations for this. But, like, so if you're going to develop it, to what purpose? To what purpose? You're going to develop a psychic ability. You're going to control yourself. Maybe so you can start a psychic business. You can go read tarot cards for people so you can control things. So you can have your little corner in the world. So you're controlling the world, and then you're taking money from people. So you're controlling people. You see, there's two parts to this. It's not dangerous because part of knowing what you are not in terms of self-identification, if I decide I'm a psychic because I thought of my friend 2 minutes before I ran into her, and I decide I'm going to develop these faculties within myself, and I'm going to start a psychic business, and I'm going to, get paid money to help these people learn about the truth that's going to happen or whatever, then, I'm going the wrong way. I'm going the wrong way down the power pyramid. But I also have to play out these dramas and these self-identification, these self-identification forms until I can see the falseness in them. So it's kind of dangerous because some people get lost trying to wade their way through the muck of form in their head. They get lost and they never make it out. You see? So on one level there's that. And then on the other level, it's like you kind of have to do it because you can't really listen to what I'm saying and believe me, right? Like you don't know what I am and you don't know what I am not. Like you only know you, right? So you kind of have to do it if that's your thing. But this hopefully helps you. See, it's not helping you go to a place of surrendering control. Surrendering control because it's just an arising. It's just impermanence. It arose and then it passed away. And then it arose and it passed away. Because it's not about trying to hold on to anything. It's about watching it. It's not about knowing that something is going to happen before it happens. It's about seeing it and saying, oh, that's kind of a subtle reality. Because normally, my day is boring. And that's very exciting. Actually. And so, but I observed that. And I observed that whilst maintaining the balance of my mind, right? That's the importance of this practice because we're trying to cultivate letting go of control. We're not trying to cultivate control. We're trying to get out of that pyramid, you see? And then on the other hand, trying to tune into different realms, trying to tune into different timelines, trying to, speak with people in different energy levels or whatever. Like that's kind of it. Really, in a sense, it's taking you out of the now. See, on another level, like if you stop looking at power and control, it's just taking you out of presence. Okay. Oh, wow, interesting. I heard that. Oh, I thought of that. Oh, interesting. Oh, wow. This is a subtle reality. But then that ego and self-identification, he's going to say, this is wonderful. This is pleasant. This is awesome. And he's going to grab onto that, and he's going to cling to that, and he's going to crave for that to be your solid, permanent reality. And that's where suffering begins. You see, because the law of arising is everything arises and passes away. Everything arises and passes away. It's impermanent. You see? So, ultimately, cultivating those faculties within yourself, it's not really going to help you, like, get to the final goal. Like, unless you do it and you take it to its end and you see the falseness in it, and so you know what you are not, so you can be who you really are. You understand? And it's all kind of mumbo jumbo from the mind of Wild Willie, but really it's your life, and it's your experience, and it's your kind of journey, and it's your karmic cycle. You see? But the more you know what you are not, and the more you practice being what you really are, the more you develop that space within yourself, the more you go out and you get lost or you forget, the easier it is to remember and to come back and to return. You see? If you have no basis of beingness, if you have no seed of beingness planted within you, it will be hard to return because it's not there, you see? But if you work on establishing that sense in some capacity, then it will be easier for you to return to that once you go out and get lost in the world of form. And the number one way to do that in any endeavor you do is concentration. Concentration with the intention of seeing something from its start to its conclusion. Okay, this was a impromptu go. Whoa! I hope my friend Christine enjoyed it. I'm sorry I could not get my psychic friend on here to have. This would have been a totally different conversation if she was on here. But anyways, I hope you enjoy. I think it turned out really well. And until next time, Wild Willie out. And hey, you know what? If you don't want to ask me any questions, that's fine. I'd much rather teach y'all the principles so you can go answer your own questions. Okay, until next time, Wild Willie out.